Harinam Sankirtan Yagya ki. Hare Krishna. Harinam Sankirtan Yagya ki. हम करता Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikayai Taravai Kṛṣṇaya Kṛṣṇa Bhaktaya Tarabhaktaya Jaya Radha H.G. Prabhupada ki Jayam Vishwapad Paramahamsa Vichaya Sota Sota Shishmachila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada ki Anantakudi Vaishnavrinda ki Sirup Si Sanatan Bhattaraganath Jiv Gopala Bhattadas Saraganath Sari Krishna Prabhu ki Prem se ko Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sridhar Gaura Bhaktavrinda ki Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopi Gopinatham Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana ki Vrindavan Dham ki Mathura Dham ki Mayapura Dham ki Jaganpuri Dham ki Tulsi Maharani Bhakti Devi ki Ganga Yamuni Devi ki Harinam Sankirtanya ki Sri Sri Gaunita ki Sri Sri Krishna Balaram ki Sri Sri Radha Shyam Sundar ki Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. So we are reading from the Bhagavad Gita as it is, 5th chapter, text number 14. Na kartṛtvam na karmāṇi lokasya sṛjati prabhuḥ na karma-phala-saṁyogaṁ svabhāvas pravartate na kartṛtvam na karmāṇi lokasya sṛjati prabhuḥ na karma-phala-saṁyogaṁ svabhāvas pravartate. Never. Kartṛtvam. Proprietorship. Nor. Karmāṇi. Activities. Lokasya. Of the people. Sṛjati. Creates. Prabhuḥ. The master of the city of the body. Nor karma-phala, with the results of activities. Saṁyogam, connection. Svabhāvas, the modes of material nature. To, but, pravartate, act. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. Translation. The embodied spirit, master of the city of his body, does not create activities, nor does he induce people to act, nor does he create the fruits of action. All this is enacted by the modes of material nature. Purport. The living entity, as will be explained in the 7th chapter, is one of the energies or natures of the Supreme Lord, but is distinct from matter, which is another nature called inferior of the Lord. Somehow the superior nature, the living entity, has been in contact with material nature since time immemorial. The temporary body or material dwelling place which he obtains is the cause of varieties of activities and their resultant actions. Living in such a conditional atmosphere, one suffers the results of the activities of the body by identifying himself in ignorance with the body. It is ignorance acquired from time immemorial that is a cause of bodily suffering and distress. As soon as the living entity becomes aloof from the activities of the body, he becomes free from their reactions as well. As long as he is in the city of the body, he appears to be the master with it, but actually is neither its proprietor nor controller of its actions and reactions. Is simply in the midst of the material ocean struggling for existence. The waves of the ocean are tossing him, and he has no control over them. His best solution is to get out of the water by transcendental Kṛṣṇa consciousness. That alone will save him from all turmoil. Om Ajnanatimidandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakasodhanmilitam Yenam Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Sayam Rupagadāmayam Dadāti Sapadantikam Bandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sirupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Ritam Tam Sajivam Sadaitam Savadutam Parjana Saitam Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Kṛṣṇa Padan Sagana Lalita Sri Vishakanvidamscha. He Kṛṣṇa Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Ganta Radha Kanta Namastude Datta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavane Shari Vrishabhano Sude Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Paritanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Sri Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Prabhu Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Na kartṛtvam, na karmāṇi lokasya sṛjati prabhuḥ. Na karma-phala-saṁyogaṁ svabhāvas pravartate. The embodied spirit, master of the city of his body, does not create activities, nor does he induce people to act, nor does he create the fruits of action. All this is enacted by the modes of material nature. Kṛṣṇa is explaining to Arjuna about the transcendental living being, the spirit, who is embodied, who is in this material world, but ultimately has nothing to do with this material world. So here he's explaining that the spirit soul is the master of these bodies, and the body is considered to be just like a city. And then as explained also in previous verse, and it is mentioned in scriptures, Navadvar. So there are 9 gates in this body. So just like previously in the cities, so there was a wall around the city, protecting the city, and then there are different gates there. Even in some places it is still seen to some extent. So like you may go to Jaipur city, that the inner part, you can still see the wall, and then the different gates are there, by which you can go in and you can go out. So similarly, this body is considered to be a city, and then there are 9 gates, by which the living entity is able to act in this material world. So first of all, the 2 eyes are there by which we can see the living entity who is situated in the body. So with the help of the senses, the 5 knowledge-inquiring senses are there, and 5 working senses, by which he can acquire knowledge, by which he can do things. So with the eyes we can see, with the ears we can hear, so 2, 4, and then here we have the mouth also, 5, and the 2 nostrils, 6, and then 7, the lower part of the body, the reproductive organ, and the rectum. So 9 outlets are there. So the living entity is trying to be happy in this material world. Especially in the human form of life, so there's some possibility to control the situation to some extent. But as mentioned in this verse, that ultimately the spirit soul is not creating activities, nor is he able to induce other people to act in a certain way, nor is he able to create the fruits of one's activities. But it is all done by the 3 modes of material nature. At the same time, so the embodied being, even the conditioned soul, so he has some ability to act in a certain way. He has some free will also. First of all, that the jiva, the living entity, he has a choice that he can either serve Kṛṣṇa or he can try to be independent of Kṛṣṇa. Little independence is there, minute independence. But actually, by nature, so the svabhāvaḥ of the nature of the living entity is to serve Kṛṣṇa, Jivera Sopoe, Kṛṣṇera Nityadas. That is the natural situation of every living entity, to serve the Supreme Lord. And in the spiritual world, the eternal associates of the Lord are there, and they are always engaged in the service of Kṛṣṇa. Even there is an energy there, the internal energy by which the servant of Kṛṣṇa can act in a certain way. But still a little free will is there. We may still choose to act in a certain way, but one is not completely independent. Only Kṛṣṇa, Swarat, is completely independent. He can do as he likes, because everything is coming from Kṛṣṇa. All the spiritual material worlds, different expansions are there, and as explained here also, the jivas, infinitesimal spirit beings, and then the external energy, the material world. So everything is coming from Kṛṣṇa. And so Kṛṣṇa is supremely independent. At the same time, Kṛṣṇa, by his own sweet will also, by his eternal potency, he becomes sometimes dependent on his pure devotees, just like his mother and father, because they have so much love for him. So then he's sometimes acting as they like. Or even the gopis, the elderly gopis, so sometimes they will, when Kṛṣṇa is very small, as in Prakat Lila in this world, so they're asking Kṛṣṇa, please Kṛṣṇa, now you dance. And if you dance nicely, then we'll give you some sweet. And then Kṛṣṇa, according to their desire, then Kṛṣṇa is dancing. And then they're giving him some sweet. And then Kṛṣṇa is happy and the gopis are happy. So everything they do for Kṛṣṇa's pleasure. And Kṛṣṇa, so is actually reciprocating their love. So in this way it seems to be that Kṛṣṇa is to some extent dependent, but actually is fully independent, but is reciprocating with his devotees. So therefore it seems to be that is to some extent is dependent. So whereas the living entities, they are completely dependent on the Supreme Lord, on the will of the Supreme Lord. Only a minor dependence is there. In the spiritual world also, so different activities may be there, and so the associates of the Lord, they may choose to serve Kṛṣṇa in one way or another way. So in this way, little independence is there. But ultimately, even there in the spiritual world, the internal energy is there, yoga maya, which is facilitating everything. So, but little independence is there for the jiva. Whereas here also in the material world, so the jivas also have a little independence. They can either serve Kṛṣṇa or they can be in the material world. And even when they're in the material world and they are under the external energy and they are conditioned, but even there they have some choice also. A little independence is there, but very minute independence is there. Just like, for example, somebody has a lot of money and then he decides, let me go to, and from here, let's say he's living here in Vrindavan, and then he's thinking, let me go to Mayapur. So, and then so he has a little independence there. And then he can decide to go, he's buying a ticket, plane ticket, is going to Delhi with the car, and then he's taking the flight, and then in Calcutta he's arriving, from Delhi to Calcutta, and now he's taking again a car to Mayapur. So, he can choose to some extent, but he's not completely dependent. As a devotee, even as a materialistic person, A rich person may be thinking in Delhi, have so much money, let me make more money, let me go to America. And then he may try to go there. And he may also be able to go there because of his resources, but he's not completely free. Then suddenly some difficulty may come. Or the plane may crash in midway, and then everything is finished. But some independence is there. He can choose to some extent, but only very minor extent he can choose. So, as practicing devotee, we have to try to realize our constitutional position as the eternal servant of Kṛṣṇa. So every second, we have to choose to serve Kṛṣṇa. And we have to act for Krishna's pleasure. And then also as Kṛṣṇa likes, not as we want. Anyavilashita shunyam jnana karmana avritam anukulina Kṛṣṇa ruchiranam bhaktiruttamam. So that is the highest pure devotional service, is to act as Kṛṣṇa wants us to act. And that we may know from the spiritual master. By having a spiritual master, we know how to serve Kṛṣṇa by his mercy. And then we can act for Krishna's pleasure. So we have to practice on a daily basis to surrender always to Kṛṣṇa. And as Kṛṣṇa likes, and we have to be also cautious and understand that internal energy is there and the external energy is there. So we have to try to be under the influence of the internal energy and not the external energy. In conditioned life, it is not always easy because the external energy is very strong. The modes of material nature are strong. So, but we have to be thoughtful, and we have to try to see that we can do everything for Krishna's pleasure as much as possible. And for that purpose also we have to try to be in the mode of goodness. So we have to understand the mode of goodness, for example, the environment. So we should be in a good environment, peaceful environment, in a clean place. First of all, our house, or where we stay, our ashram should be clean, and also our surrounding. So if one is staying in the ashram, that is conducive, because there everyone is trying to serve Kṛṣṇa, so the mode of goodness is prevalent. Or if you are a householder, then we should also see best if you have our own place, a little piece of land and a house. If not, then we should be in an apartment, and also be amongst devotees, surrounded by devotees, so that would be conducive. And we have to make sure that our house is clean as much as possible, inside and the surrounding. And then in regards to our vichar, our thinking, so we have to be always positive in our thinking, and we should try to serve Hari Guru Vaishnava, and we should try to help others also. Sarvabhutehi terataha. So that is the thinking in the mode of goodness. And then from that mode of goodness, it is more easy to become transcendental, to be able to surrender to Kṛṣṇa completely with body, mind and word. So it starts with the thinking. So we have to practice to be in the mode of goodness, first of all by our consciousness, and then also by our speaking. We have to speak very pleasing. We have to try to be mostly engaged in glorifying Kṛṣṇa, or glorifying the spiritual master, the Vaishnavas. So that we have to consciously try to do. So whereas if the mode of passion is there, then one wants quick results, and then sometimes one will speak harshly because already in the consciousness one is not peaceful. If one is not peaceful in consciousness, due to the mode of passion, maybe material desires may be there, and if material desires are not fulfilled, then the mode of passion will be there, and then naturally also our speaking will be in that way, in the mode of passion. and our acting also. And if one is in a mode of ignorance, if one is eating too much, sleeping too much, then inertia will be there. One cannot properly think about spiritual activities, and then also one will not be able to properly be engaged. So we have to try to see that we are under the influence of the internal potency. As Prabhupada is also explaining, that by nature the jiva, the spirit soul, is superior to the external energy. But the jiva, so is known as tatastha shakti, tatastha shakti. So it is the borderline. It is not completely under the internal energy, and may not be completely under the external energy. It is in between. So then the jiva has to try to be under the internal energy, above the external energy. So by nature, the jiva, the conditioned soul, is tatastha, and between the internal and the external energy. In conditioned state also. But then if one is engaged by the mercy of the spiritual master and the Vaishnavas in spiritual activities, that slowly but surely he can be above the external energy, above the modes of material nature, and then he will be more and more under the influence of the internal energy, and then is properly situated. But it is not so easy to do that. So therefore we have to practice on a daily basis, and we have to actually pray to the spiritual master, to the Vaishnavas, and we have to cry out for help, and we have to pray to the Supreme Lord, so that we can be properly situated, so that we can be above the bodily platform, identification with the body. So we should be situated in consciousness, first of all, that I am the eternal servant of Kṛṣṇa. That is a real ego. So ego cannot be denied. Ahankar, false ego, we sometimes say the false ego. That means identifying with this material body. I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm Indian, or I'm a pujari, I'm a cook or whatever. So that may be there. So, but we have to understand that by nature, so we are the eternal servants of Kṛṣṇa, and ultimately have nothing to do with this material world. But at the same time, we are now in the present situation, and we have to then be engaged in Kṛṣṇa service with this body, because in the beginning stage, although we're spirit soul, but we cannot yet serve Kṛṣṇa with our spiritual identity, because it is there in a dormant state. So it has to be awakened, it has to be developed by engaging in spiritual activities, and for that we're using this body, which is material, but by engaging in spiritual activities it becomes purified. And then slowly but surely we can understand practically also that one is not the body, and then the senses are purified, and then one can see things as they are. One can see Kṛṣṇa's transcendental form. And then one can, when one is hearing about Kṛṣṇa, then Kṛṣṇa will also manifest by hearing. And by constant hearing about Kṛṣṇa, then Kṛṣṇa will be established in the heart. And then with the transcendental senses we can serve Kṛṣṇa, and Kṛṣṇa will be revealed. With the material senses we cannot perceive Kṛṣṇa. Adasi Kṛṣṇa na bhavedna, adasi Kṛṣṇa na bhavet karindya seva mukhi jivaro swayam evasparati. So that Kṛṣṇa cannot be understood with material senses. With material eyes we cannot really see Kṛṣṇa as he is. But Kṛṣṇa comes in the Acha Vigraha, so that with our material eyes we can to some extent perceive Kṛṣṇa, the Acha Vigraha. But then we must hear about Krishna sufficiently. We must have the proper understanding. And then slowly but surely in purified consciousness, we can see Krishna as he is. In the beginning, we see a marble statue. But then we have heard that Krishna looks like that. But then we cannot see Krishna moving, we cannot see Krishna speaking. Because our senses are not yet purified, but in purified state, then we can see Krishna as he is. And then in pure state, so we can talk to Krishna. Krishna will talk to us, and there's a loving exchange. So in purified consciousness, when the senses are purified, the intelligence, the mind, everything, our existence is purified, then slowly but surely we can perceive Krishna. We can understand that we are completely different from this material body, both the gross body and the subtle body. Ahankar means the false ego, and then the material intelligence, material mind. So we are transcendental to that. So we have to try to realize by being constantly engaged in spiritual activities. And then actually we are really the master of this body. When the Goswami means controller of the senses. So they are perfectly in control because they have engaged in Krishna seva, in Krishna service, so they can understand that they are different from this body, from the gross and subtle body, and then they are actually really the master of this body. Whereas the conditioned soul, how much powerful he may be, how much rich he may be, but is not the controller of this body. He's not the master of this body, but he may think so. But only the pure devotees, they are above this body, and so actually then they can also be called the master of the body in the true sense. When one is spiritually enlightened and one is realized, and then so one is then actually able to properly serve Krishna with spiritual senses. And so you can understand that it's different from this body, and then he can engage the body in Krishna seva also. So that is the, and then but he completely understands properly the actions of this material world, and his understanding that how the conditioned soul is completely bound. So we have to try to be, in the beginning stage, be situated in the mode of goodness, and be always under the guidance of the spiritual master, the advanced devotees, and be constantly engaged in spiritual activities, and then slowly but surely we can understand things as they are. We can see everything ultimately connected to Krishna, and Krishna is transcendently situated in the spiritual world in Golok Vrindavan, performing his wonderful pastimes. At the same time, he's in this material world also situated in everyone's heart, and is there in unmanifested form, in Braj. We know that Krishna is always in Braj, and that the pure devotees, they can see, they can perceive Krishna. So even now, so that is possible for the pure devotees. So we have to try to become more and more Krishna conscious, as Prabhupada is writing in Nectar of Devotion, that Krishna consciousness is a cultivation. We have to cultivate being Krishna conscious on a daily basis, more and more. And so we are very fortunate to be in Sri Vrindavan Dham, because in the holy place it is more easy to remember Krishna, where Krishna performed his wonderful pastimes. And in the holy Dham, so the majority of the people, they are actually endeavoring to be Krishna conscious. And there are so many temples. As we know, it is said there are at least 5,000 temples, now even more. Because practically in Vrindavan, every house is like a temple, because all the inhabitants of Vrindavan, they worship Krishna. They will have a deity of Krishna. And then even you can see, there was one saint from the Nimbakacharya Sampradaya. He left maybe this world 1.5 years ago. But he was quite well known because he was writing on the walls, on the trees, the names of Radha and Kṛṣṇa very beautifully. And then you can walk in Vrindavan, you can see the name of Radha and Kṛṣṇa. And even some places, shlokas are there, verses describing the wonderful qualities of Kṛṣṇa or Śrīmati Radharani. So it is more easy to remember Kṛṣṇa in a holy place. And so here, by Prabhupada's mercy, we have a very beautiful temple where Sisi Gonita, Krishna Balaram, Sisi Radha, Shyamasundar are residing. And then, so with the knowledge of the scriptures, of the spiritual master, then we engage in spiritual activities, and we are always reminded of Kṛṣṇa. By seeing the deity, by hearing Krishna Katha in the morning and the evening, Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and then so seeing the deities. And for example, today is Amavasya. So Amavasya is new moon. So as we know, the solar days are there and the lunar days are there. So usually as Vaishnavas we follow the lunar calendar. And today it is Amavasya. So Prabhupada has explained, and according to the scriptures, 3 titis, 2 lunar days, 3 lunar days are very auspicious. One is Ekadashi, which is 2 times in a month, and 1 time in a month Amavasya, and 1 time in a month Purnima Tithi. So you can see here in our temple, so the deities are beautifully decorated. So anyone has taken darshan today in the temple, who has taken darshan in the temple today? Only everyone took darshan temple. So what is the dress today? The color of the dress? Black. There's also significance. Black because today is Amavasya. And no moon is there. And they say new moon, but actually there's no moon. We cannot see the moon. And because the moon is not there, we cannot see anything at night time if there's no light. And then the pastimes of Kṛṣṇa there also. Kṛṣṇa is performing pastimes day and night. Daytime he's sometimes when he's at home in the pasturing grounds. Noontime he's at Radhakund with the gopis. And then evening time, this time he's coming home, taking a bath, eating something, and then he's taking rest, and then night time is going out again. When everyone is sleeping, Kṛṣṇa is going out. He wants to meet the gopis. And the gopis then also, so by Kṛṣṇa sends a message, sometimes through a gopa, one of his friends, or they have the birds or the pigeons, and they have here a kind of little box in which they write a message, and the messages are sent here and there. And then Radha Kṛṣṇa, so they have a meeting place at night time. So in order to meet, so Kṛṣṇa on this day, on today's day when there's no moon, he's putting a dark dress. Usually he has pitambara vesh, he has a yellow dhoti. But Amavasya is having a dark colored dress, black. And Kṛṣṇa is already Shyam, Kanna is blackish in color, and black dress. So then he's going out at night time, nobody can see him if somebody is awake. Although hardly anybody is awake, but still they want to be careful that nobody should see us. Even the chokidars are sleeping, like here many times. Night time, they work during the day, and night time also sleeping, the watchman. In Golok also they are sleeping, the watchman. And there's no need of watchman, but still sometimes they have. Even there is a sun and moon, although everything is self-fulfillment, but still the moon and sun are there to help in the pastimes of Kṛṣṇa. And also Radharani on this day, she's also wearing a black dress. But Radharani, she's Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi, golden in complexion, very beautiful, so effulgent. So she has to do something to cover her effulgence, her golden complexion. So she's taking kajal. So this black ointment which the ladies are putting around the eyes makes them more beautiful. And then even sometimes for protection they will make a dot on the small children. So then she's taking kajal in the hand and putting on the arms and putting on the face. So the golden complexion is not seen, hardly seen. And then, so then they're going to meet. And even Srimati Radharani, she has some Nupur ankle bells. And when the ladies are walking, so then you can hear tinkling of the bells. So then she's taking some cloth and putting around the ankle bells so nobody can hear. Even here, so the bangles are there, but she's putting some cloth here. So when she's walking, nobody can hear. And the gopis also, they are doing similarly. And then they meet somewhere, and then of course Radharani again, she will take out the kajal, and then some makeup will be there, and the gopis are helping, and then the wonderful pastimes are there. Similarly on the full moon, Purnima Tithi night, so everything is very bright. So that day, the dress of the deities is white, because night time also they're going out and they have a white dress, Kṛṣṇa and Srimati Radharani. And because Kṛṣṇa is blackish, then his friends are grinding some chandan, and he's putting some chandan on his body, like chandan yatra. Then you can, black Kṛṣṇa is not there. Then his whitish golden on his arms everywhere. So then they meet also. So when we do the seva to the deities, it is also according to the pastimes of the Lord. And so we hear about that, and then we serve accordingly also, and then we can be absorbed in the wonderful pastimes of the Lord. And in this way, we can advance more and more. And that's actually most important, to be absorbed in Krishna's pastimes. Simply by thinking, I'm not this body, I'm spirit, soul, so that is not sufficient, but we must have some positive engagement, thinking about Kṛṣṇa, Krishna's qualities, and then his associates and his pastimes. So we have to hear about them, speak about them, and then while serving, while chanting also, of course, we emphasize on speaking the holy names and hearing, but then we have to also pray to Kṛṣṇa, that we may remember him, because Kṛṣṇa Nama are not different. So the pure devotees that think they're speaking the holy names, and then actually Kṛṣṇa is manifested. So we have to also pray, and we have to practice, so that we may be able to see Kṛṣṇa also while we are chanting, and Kṛṣṇa's associates and Kṛṣṇa's pastimes. So it cannot be done in an artificial way, but by sincere endeavor and by praying, then we can slowly but surely, we can increase our meditation on Kṛṣṇa and on Kṛṣṇa's pastimes. And then ultimately we can be absorbed in that. So just like, for example, we are breathing. So because since childhood, actually when the child is born, sometimes the child is not breathing. Then the doctor is actually giving a slap to the child, and then the child is feeling pain and is crying, and then automatically breathing. So the child is breathing, and then of course that becomes automatic. So we don't even have to think. Of course sometimes we do some pranayama to control the breathing, but usually the breathing is automatic. So similarly, by practicing Kṛṣṇa consciousness, then thinking about Kṛṣṇa will be automatic also. So we have to try our best to be always thinking about Kṛṣṇa, hearing about Kṛṣṇa, speaking about Kṛṣṇa. Then Kṛṣṇa will also help us. If we endeavor, then Kṛṣṇa will reciprocate so much. But we have to be always in the association of the devotees, under the guidance of the advanced devotees, so that we can be properly situated and that we can advance nicely and be under the influence of the internal energy. So we have to be with the devotees, otherwise we have no chance, because the external energy is very, very strong, extremely strong. And on our own, it will be not possible to overcome the external energy. So in the association of the devotees, especially those who are more advanced, then we can be more successful in overcoming the external energy. And then by praying, and then by the mercy of the Lord, we can be successful. And then we are properly situated. Hare Kṛṣṇa. Any question? Okay, so then we have a little prasadam. Srila Prabhupada ki. Ladies, listen.